Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Monday, the 19th of February. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined by a full-strength squad this morning. Chris, Jack, and Joshua Barry join us after a top weekend, gents. Chris, how are we doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. I take a week off, and it all happens. Last time I was on the show, Rangers were second, back on top of the league, so all is well in the Rangers world right now.
Yeah, it certainly is. Joshua, you were in Perth yesterday for us. Rangers comfortable, not scintillating, you could say, but they were never really in any doubt. But a good wee trip up for you.
Yeah, no, I think that sums it up well, Derek. The St Johnstone didn't have a shot on target, but until you get that late penalty.
Oh, his mic's went off there. His mouth is moving, but we cannot hear any sound. So he's just going to adjust the microphone as we speak. We'll come back.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Yeah.
I don't know what this is when I try to be fancy with my mics, Derek, and they don't work. But no, as I was saying, it was one of those games I thought where all it takes is like one slip at 1-0, and you've always got that in the back of your mind. Obviously, we saw it at St Mirren a few weeks ago where Rangers almost conceded late on from a corner when they hit the crossbar. But again, one of these games, then in hindsight, you look at it and you say, I mean, the pitch was, again, really difficult to play football through. Yeah. Similar to St Mirren a couple of weeks ago, Derek, and a professional job, not scintillating, but Rangers keep winning games, and if Rangers keep winning games, then that doesn't really matter at all at the moment. So a good weekend for them, and they were able to take their opportunity once it was handed to them, which is not something that they've always been able to do in the last few years.
Yeah, we'll get stuck into it shortly. Just a quick word for our podcast sponsors, as ever, the MPH Group. If you're looking for some home improvements, folks, or even a new boiler, then these are the guys to call. I've got the boiler man coming out to my house later this morning because mine is kaput pretty much. So I might be giving MPH a phone call. Anyway, let's talk Rangers. Chris, like you said, you've been off for a week. Good result during the week against Ross County. It was unfortunate they never got that elusive fourth goal. Then a nice surprise on Saturday evening when news filtered through that Kilmarnock had scored a stoppage time equaliser at Parkhead, which then presented Rangers with an opportunity yesterday of going clear at the top of the division. And they took their opportunity. First half goal, an absolute stunning strike from Mohamed Diamandi, his first in Rangers colours, a beauty of a hit. And then in the second half, two penalties and two blatant penalties. Referee had to go to VAR. Know that Craig Levein wasn't best pleased, but listen, it was two penalties. James Tavernier stepped up as he normally does and fired both home and opposite corners, and Rangers winning by 3-0 to move top of the Scottish Premiership. You watched the game yesterday, Chris. What did you make of it all?
Well, like Josh said, I don't think it was a classic, but I thought professional is how you would probably sum it up from Rangers. I think, as a number of the comments have said, I think as well. Notice yesterday, pitch up there has not been good for a number of years. Yesterday, it looked absolutely dreadful. It's not a surface that's conducive to good football. I thought it took Rangers a bit of time to adapt to that. But overall, performance-wise, it was 3. Could easily have been 4 or 5. A couple of chances that we had, I'm sure we'll come on to a certain Mr. Dessers and the one that he missed. Mm-hmm. But I thought overall, not a great performance from Rangers, but it didn't have to be. It's very much 3 points and back down the road yesterday. Yesterday is measured in terms of what it means in terms of the table, in terms of the momentum, in terms of confidence and the feel-good factor. It's not measured on how good the performance was and how slick some of the passing was. Two really clinical penalties from Tav. I thought the Diamandi goal capped off a really, really encouraging performance. Really like to look at him. It was interesting. It was actually good to see him have a shot from that area. If that's the type of thing that he can bring to the side, for me, that's definitely a positive. We've seen that with Tom Lawrence come back into the side in the last few weeks. Someone who's not afraid to have a shot from distance. That's not to say that you start pinging them from 35 yards every week, but if you get into a promising position like that, don't be afraid to have to have a crack at it. And if Diomande is going to be able to bring that to the party, I think that's certainly a positive for Rangers overall. So I thought he was really impressive. Number of guys, solid performances. As I say, a very professional performance, and it was very much a job well done.
Yeah, incidentally, just on the pitch, I know Clement was asked about it prior to the game, and he says that they have to be better. Not only St Johnstone's, he name checks St Mirren as well. The St Johnstone fans not happy with it, and quite rightly so. It was abysmal for top flight football. It has to be better than what it is. I get the weather conditions and what have you, but surely there's enough money in the game to have a better pitch than what was served up yesterday. However, Rangers cope with the surface. Joshua, as Chris says, Mohamed Diomande with the opening goal. The technique, by the way, is sensational. To roll it with his left and hit it with his weaker foot. It was quite stunning. And his overall performance, with a few comments coming in, was one that certainly left a lot of optimism that what he can produce for Rangers going forward.
Yeah, and something we'll look at in a bit more detail, Derek, over the course of this week. I think that firstly on Diomande and Cortez, Rangers had a difficult, we spoke about it a lot in the January window. I think we all thought that Rangers had a good window. The question was, do they have enough big players? Do they have enough goals to win the league? At the moment, it looks like they're in a good place, but they weren't starting from an ideal situation. It's not as if Coppin came in and his job was to just add the finishing touches to squad building over the last couple of years. It's about, in many ways, I think, trying to start again and go in a new direction. Therefore, I think that the task with players like Diomande and Cortez in particular, we know obviously that Silva is only a short-term deal, was can you get players in who are fit your model and are going to be worth money down the line and are the type of players that you'd sign in an ideal window, but then are also not just potential project players, those who can come in and make an impact now. And I think that's really difficult. That's really difficult to do. It's difficult to find that balance of player. And although we can't say definitively what impact they're going to make between now and the end of the season, and both of their first real sightings, obviously Cortez started against Ayr and was man of the match. Diomande rightly man of the match yesterday on a difficult surface, as you say. It was a proper introduction to Scottish football. That looks like a real positive. I think that Clement said after he can play the 6-8 or the 10, and it's a midfield performance that just shows that, and that's what we spoke about when he arrived. A pretty complete midfield profile, is comfortable dropping to receive off the centre backs as he is spinning in behind, gives you a different type of midfield profile, and he's left-footed, comfortable on the left, really comfortable taking the ball in difficult situations when Rangers are being pressed. So he looked exciting, and I think overall it took Rangers time, Derek, it wasn't a classic. I think their expected goals actually without the penalties was 0.9 or something, so it really wasn't a classic game. But again, it felt like one of these games that if you want to win a league title, in Scottish football, you're going to have to go away on days like this when it's really difficult. And I actually thought that the pitch in a way helped St Johnstone's approach, because it meant that when they pushed up, they were gambling on the fact that Rangers weren't really going to be able to play through. And we know that Clement's team like to build up quite directly when they're in their own half of the pitch. But at times I just thought it became a little bit predictable in that first half hour. Too often they were going over the top. Incidentally, I know we'll maybe touch on Dujon Sterling, but I thought one of the changes that Clement made that was really intelligent in hindsight was bringing on Sterling, because there was a few times down that right-hand side where not only did the move break down with Scott Wright, but there was space to run into, and Andy Constantine was just able to kind of overpower him, which obviously didn't happen with Dujon Sterling, and he would go on to win the penalty. But I thought basically there, the more that Rangers played through the pitch, that helped them build a bit of momentum up until they scored the goal, which is a fantastic moment of quality. But again, I thought Todd Campbell was maybe Rangers' best player up there with Diomande. Anyone who was at the game yesterday will see how difficult it is to receive with your back to goal and take risks on that pitch. We saw a few times where it didn't come off. Lundstrom and Campbell both lost the ball in dangerous areas, but they managed to recover it. But there was 3 or 4 moments with Campbell where he got the ball with his back to goal. There was one where he created a chance for Wright, but Wright was kind of on his heels. A couple of flicks around the corner, and I thought more and more that when Rangers tried to play into the space in front of the defence, having tried to go behind quite a lot early on, that made a big impact. So professional job. I thought Campbell was really good. I thought Diomande was really good, and that Sterling substitution, he just seems to be able to play anywhere at the moment. I don't think he's a complete right winger, but again, I think he's going to be such an important player for Rangers between now and the end of the season. And clearly, not only in winning the penalty, but clearly I thought he made a really good impact from the bench as well.
Yeah, he's an absolute machine, Dujon Sterling. Just off the back of that, you mentioned there Scott Wright. There's a few comments coming in, not too enamoured by his performance. This from Denzo, who says, I hate saying it about one of our players, but Wright is finished for me. He offered nothing yesterday. Happens too often. Not his best of games, struggling for a bit of form at this moment in time. Chris, I think it was a bit of a surprise to see him start yesterday in place of Ross McCausland. What did you make of his performance? Why is he struggling at this moment in time, do you think?
I think it's maybe
just Scott Wright. It's just the same sort of thing that's happened to him. He's been provided with opportunities, hasn't he? Countless times, but it's just that end product at times that lets him down.
Ultimately, Scott Wright is what Scott Wright is. He's not. Yeah. He's not someone who's going to be starting for Rangers and a team that wins the title. He's a squad player. The fact that he was so close to leaving the club in the summer tells its own story. Fair play to him for the way he's managed to work his way back in, but a number of his chances have come through circumstances because Rangers, the way the squad was built over the summer, there's very little natural width in there. So when you then appoint a manager who wants to play with wide players, and there's not that many of them, then your chances of playing automatically go up. We've spoken about Rangers being short of someone on that right-hand side. McCausland, thankfully, has come in and been really impressive and done really well in there, because if McCausland had not emerged this season, we would have seen a whole lot more of Scott Wright, and ultimately he's just not at that level. As a squad option for certain games, fine, come in, do a job, but we're now at the business end of the season. We need better. I think the fact that he was given the chance yesterday, have to agree with the manager, giving McCausland the rest. He has played a lot of football. Yeah. The manager has been really smart in terms of how he's dipped him in and out, and that goes with a lot of the players on the squad. His squad management in terms of their minutes and the kind of exposure they get, if you like, has been really, really impressive. I thought it was right not to start McCausland yesterday, but Scott Wright comes in, has a really, really off at 45 minutes. Sterling comes on at half-time, makes such a difference. It's so impressive. People are talking about him after the game, and that probably tells you where Scott Wright is. If a guy who was signed as a right-back is coming in and making more of an impact in your natural position, I think that probably tells you quite a lot. I would be very, very surprised if Scott Wright is part of the Rangers squad next season. Mm-hmm. And if this is to be his last season, well, fair play to him. He's a man who has made the most of his talents. He's won a league. He's won a Scottish Cup, played a European final. He could potentially leave this season with another league medal around his neck. If he does, I think Rangers have been very good to him. I think fans will wish him well wherever he ends up. But going forward, I think Rangers need someone who is just at a higher level and certainly far more consistent.
Yeah, and Dujon Sterling is that, Josh. I've tagged a wee piece in the description. Folks, do go and give it a read when you have a chance today. Francis says, so glad to have Sterling back. He had some game when he came on. Certainly did. Almost immediately set up an opportunity, of course, to Amandi with a cross into the box, and Fabio Silva with a good hit. Well, the goalkeeper, it was a comfortable save in the end, but it was a decent move right at the start of that second half. But he won the penalty, of course, blatant penalty. There was a few comments coming in saying it's weird that the ref missed both incidents. They had to go to VAR, but again, that was all Sterling's doing. That first one, Joshua, he's been an absolute revelation under the new manager, hasn't he?
Yeah, first on the penalties, I think that is what VAR is there for. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, you'd much rather that a referee if they get the decision wrong initially, which obviously they did. The handball is one of these ones where you're frustrated if it happens to you, probably, but by the law of the game, it is. Yeah, and the first one, I actually wasn't sure from where I was sitting because I was behind it. But when you see I don't know where the angle the referee was at, but it's
clear view of it. But there's a few comments saying it's some maybe saying that he's got that comfort blanket of VAR, which
maybe, and that is a factor as well. And the referee did look over to the assistant, and I think sometimes that can happen a little bit now, where it's like, well, who's actually making the decision here? But once you saw the replay back, clear penalty, and it's an interesting sub because people, I think the reason McCausland didn't start is one, he needed the rest. But if you look at what Wright and Sterling were doing at the moment, you'll see a lot of rotation between Rangers fullback and winger, and when they've got a lot of the ball on a good pitch. But they had to adapt their game, as Clement said, and what that adaptation meant, I think, on the wing in particular, the right wing in particular, was a lot more runs in behind. You could see Clement early on sitting behind the dugout, telling Cortez instead of trying to spin in and get the ball to feet to go in behind. And Scott Wright, there was maybe 3 times where Rangers were obviously trying to isolate him up against Constein, who's a wide centre back, but he's played left back and he was playing left back out of possession at points. And it wasn't really working. And it was just a complete mirror image of Wright at the start of the first half. Although Constein got to the ball first for that, it was a Fabio Silva chance, which was really well saved. Sterling just had the kind of pace and the power and the presence to hold him off, and it's the exact same for the penalty. I thought it was a really good substitution. He should score that header at the back post, but maybe just doesn't quite see the flight of the ball. But increasingly, as we kind of tell in that piece, which tells the story a bit of his journey to Ibrox and his journey at Ibrox so far, this is a player who, at his youth team level, was regarded as one of the best. Obviously, you don't play for Chelsea at that level if you're not a really good technical player. There was points in Chelsea's academy where he was ahead of Reece James. Conte gave him his debut at 17, and a mixture of circumstance hasn't quite lined up for him. He had an illness which kept him out of football for about a few years ago, and it feels like now, and certainly I think that's the feeling within his camp as well, that he's now been given a platform to show that he's a really good footballer, whereas before he's just not quite had that, Derek. And we've seen that with players before at Rangers and other clubs. Sometimes you just need the right platform, the right circumstance. Again, like Chris was saying with circumstance about in regards to Scott Wright, it was only circumstance that saw Sterling kind of come and play out of position, wasn't it, when Cifuentes got sent off? And what a sliding doors moment that is with Cifuentes now out of the club and Sterling very much a centrepiece of what Rangers are going to do. So I think we've seen him play on the left away at St Mirren. We've seen him play on the right yesterday in the centre of midfield, at right back and left back. He's filled in the majority of positions already for Rangers, and I think you'll see, especially in those European games, he'll play in somewhere. He'll play in one of these positions, and increasingly domestically, games away from home, Old Firm games, big games. I think it makes sense to have him because he just seems to be a net positive wherever he plays. Again, not only because of those physical attributes he's got, but because when he gets the ball, he's a good technical player. He's really quick on the ball with the ball at his feet, isn't he? And another really positive impact from the bench for him yesterday.
Yep. Very warm welcome to two guys who have joined as YouTube members on the channel, Philip McRobert and John Park. So welcome aboard, folks. If you want to join, everybody, just click the join button on the YouTube homepage of the Rangers review. It has to be a desktop version. And John actually raises a point I'll address to your good self, Chris, on Cyril Dessers, who came on yesterday. He says, I don't understand why Dessers hesitates so often when he's clean through on goal, especially when he has done the hard work and it's easier to score than miss. Could have had a hat-trick yesterday on the 20 minutes that he was on. It was another typical Cyril Dessers display, if you like. First one he's through on goal. I have no idea why he doesn't strike the ball before trying to round the goalkeeper. Why he's trying to round him when he's got a player on his shoulder is I have no idea what he's thinking there. The other one he's through, he does well. He rounds the defender and just hesitates too often. Too much, and then the chance goes a beg and it's blocked, and then he's got a header as well. It comes off the bar just prior to the second penalty. He could realistically have about 35 goals at this point in the season, Chris, couldn't he? I mean, Cyril Dessers yesterday, what did you make of it all?
I'm almost struggling to come up with answers to Cyril Dessers' questions right now. I don't know how many hours we've spent talking about over the course of the season. Enigmatic is maybe the best way to sum him up. Yes. I thought his performance against Ross County was remarkable for there we go, Craig. I think his performance against Ross County in midweek was remarkable for a number of reasons. Scored a really good goal, scores a crucial second goal just before half time. But some of the chances that he misses and some of the other things that he does, it's just bizarre. Gets his chance off the bench yesterday. As you say, Derek, that's certainly the one where he's clean through, just hit it. Just like the same one at Parkhead, just hit it. But he's a guy who I think is very, very difficult to sum up. He gets himself in great scoring position. See if he was a clinical striker. See if he had that nous, that kind of Chris Boyd style nous of balls there, it's going in the back of the net. As you say, he could easily go over 30 goals already this season. Yep. Just doesn't seem to have that nous. Doesn't have that killer instinct. But he has scored goals. He has played his part. He could end up with 3 medals this season, which for a guy who has had such a roller coaster season, would be incredible if that's how how it ends for him. He's a hard man to sum up.
Yeah, it's okay, Joshua, because I mean Rangers won the game yesterday, but as Chris says, he gets presented with that chance at Parkhead. You've got to be scoring those opportunities. You can't afford to miss them.
Yeah, and that is the one area where you're still, after the Ross County game, you're thinking, okay, everything points to if you take Rangers since Clement is taken over, almost everything's went right. But what they probably still need to get right to win the league, although now they're top, is they need to be able to have those big players in the big games. And I think that will be a question until it's done, basically, until it's not a question because it's been answered. And I've just watched some of the comments coming in there. I think a lot of people are spot on when they say that Dessers likes to take a long time to make a decision. So if you think of his goal in Clement's first game against Hibs, where he kind of stalls and puts it into the keeper's far corner, and then the goal away at Hibs, which is actually quite similar. And if you look at why he didn't pull the trigger at Parkhead, it clearly is something where he's waiting for a gap to side foot it in or to go through the goalkeeper's legs, as we saw in Real Betis. He is not the type of striker, as Chris rightly points out, who gets the ball and his first thought is to not even look at the goalkeeper, but to try and find one of the corners. So I think it's probably somewhat stylistic. He gets into so many positions. I think yesterday was a bit of a reverse of, you remember the game against Aberdeen a few weeks ago where Fabio Silva came on for the final 20 minutes and had more chances than Dessers had the whole game. And Clement said after, sometimes the striker coming off the bench can benefit from the first one, kind of tiring out the defence, if you like. So I think that Rangers have two players in there who they're going to continue to rotate for the rest of the season, aren't they? I think we know what Dessers is, and we probably know what he isn't as well. There does seem to be that hesitation at points. But if he scores 5 more goals in the league and gets 15 goals this season from where he started, that's still a pretty good total. The question will be, I think, until the end of the season, Derek, do they have that clinical nature at the top end of the pitch? Is it going to be a case of sharing the goals out, which it might be? But yeah, you're right. He could have had. I think he didn't see the man on the shoulder. But why are you trying to take the?
You're surely aware of a guy breathing down your neck. Just understand why he's not try to pick his spot.
He could feasibly have had that. I mean, this is stretching it, right? But he could feasibly have had 2 goals, very much pushing getting a third yesterday.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's where I think there is the positive, that he just keeps going and keeps getting chances. The Ross County game was a perfect example of that, where he'd missed. He probably had 6 or 7 shots in that half, scored the harder ones, missed the easier ones, and then he scores another harder one with that header towards the end of the half. So yeah, I think we'll see many more performances like that between now and the end of the season. Maybe the fact that you're 3-0 up plays or 2-0 up plays into the decision making a little bit. We don't know, but I agree that Parkhead moment did come to mind, and I think we'll see many more performances, have many more of these discussions between now and May.
Yeah, let's talk about let's talk about Fabio Silva, because there's a lot of comments coming in about Fabio. Many people not impressed with his performance yesterday. Kenneth says, thought Silva was poor yesterday. And Craig Williams with a point says, what's the panel's thoughts on Silva so far? I'm not convinced. Didn't have his best of games, Joshua, but again, we need to factor in the pitch. And he's still not, he's not an out-and-out number 9 at the end of the day. I think there was some of his play that was neat and tidy, but it's that clinical edge in front of goal that you're looking for. I'm not entirely sure he has it in his locker, pretty much like Dessers. Don't get me wrong, I think he'll contribute between now and the end of the season, but I wouldn't be hanging my hat on him getting upwards of double figures in terms of goals. What was your view on Fabio Silva yesterday?
Yeah, I thought he was okay. He obviously has that shot of the first action of the first half, which pulls out a really good save from the goalkeeper. So you're maybe a couple of inches away from having a very different discussion. I think he's been good so far, Derek. I think especially in some appearances at Ibrox and games that maybe suit him a little bit more. Yesterday is a difficult pitch that is maybe not made for technical players in the way that Rangers are playing. They're asking their striker to go over the top a lot. I think Clement will be happy with how he started, to be honest. 2 goals. If he gets 10 between now and the end of the season overall, then I think that would mark a pretty good total. But I thought he was fine. I thought it was maybe a 6 out of 10 if you're being critical. there was probably a lot of those performances overall on the pitch. So there's going to be a lot of attention continually on the number 9 position. I thought he looked disappointed when he came off, and that probably speaks to the fact that he feels the pressure of the need to score goals. But I think if you take a start so far, especially some of the performances at Ibrox, you can see you've got a really good football player there. I thought when he came off the bench against Aberdeen, was it Aberdeen? Yeah, Aberdeen, the 2-1 win in particular. Easy to forget he's not been here that long as well. So yeah, I think he started well. I don't think it was his best game yesterday, but I maintain that I think Rangers have a really, really good player in there who gives you a lot more as well as goals. I will reiterate that, yes, I agree. That question of do Rangers have goals in the big games, do they have players in the big games, will remain until they're answered. But you look at the optics of, well, someone like Todd Cantwell, how he's playing now compared to how he was playing a couple of months ago, the fact that Diomande and Cortez have come into the club as well, seems to be moving well in that regard as well so far. So not his best game yesterday, good start overall is what I would say.
Yeah, what about this question, Chris? Step in Style says, hi guys, you think Dessers and Fabio could play in the same team? Views on that? Here's my opinion. No. What's your thoughts?
No. I think they probably could, but unless Rangers are really desperate and they're chasing a game late on, I don't see a situation where the manager would ever do it. I think for that to happen, you're looking at Silva dropping down and playing as the 10. I think Rangers also have more natural options in there. As Josh said there, Cantwell has been in excellent form. Hopefully the knock that he got isn't a serious one. I saw him getting a bit of ice on his leg yesterday. He came off, so hopefully that's not a bad one. But Cantwell has been in brilliant form in that role. We've seen Lawrence can play in there. I think if you were putting Silva in there, it's almost shoehorning him into that particular role just to get the two of them on the pitch at the same time. It's not to say that it couldn't happen and that we won't see it. But I think it would take a unique set of circumstances for the manager to do it. There's talk about Silva can play wide as well, but again, I think Cortez has started really impressively off that left-hand side. McCausland is the first choice on the right. It's a bit kind of square pegs and round holes. I think if you're trying to put Silva into another area of the pitch, he's here to play through the middle. The manager made that perfectly clear, but when he was first signed, he's here to play in that number 9 role. And I think we'll continue to see those two rotated over the remainder of the season.
Yeah, and of course, hopefully Abdallah Sima will be back before the season's out as well, so he'll be another option over on that left-hand side. Just on there's a point here from John Adams, Joshua, another reason why Rangers are sitting proudly at the top of the table is the defensive record. You mentioned there are no shots on target from St Johnstone yesterday. John Adams says no shots faced and another clean sheet. The defence has been terrific, hasn't it? John Suter, I've got to say, I've been so impressed with him in recent weeks. I think he's been fantastic, really growing in that partnership alongside Connor Goldson. Bonner came in left back yesterday, didn't really put a foot wrong before Ridvan came on. The defence is... You don't win titles without a solid defence, and Rangers have got that, Joshua.
Yeah, they do. And I think if you look at the 2 goals they've conceded at home recently against Ross County and Aberdeen, while they are concerning that they're freak goals, I think if you were a manager, you'd probably rather concede the odd freak goal than have a pattern of conceding high-quality chances, which they don't at the moment. I think part of it is Connor Goldson and John Suter both spoke about Rangers' structure. When they have the ball, their structure off the ball, making sure they don't concede transitions. That's a big reason why you see the role of the fullback changing, especially at Ibrox. Why on Wednesday night or whenever it was against Ross County, Tavernier and Ridvan were right in the midfield at points. A big reason is to protect against transitions. Obviously, Ross County at times gambled, I think, with their 2 strikers, and they got the rewards for their goals. Both those goals that Rangers conceded were actually, if you look back at them, kind of blind hooks from the midfield over the top with the player actually facing his own goal. So obviously, maybe 2 moments where Rangers switched off somewhat. But that aside, if to go away to a place like St Johnstone yesterday on that pitch and not really concede a dangerous chance whatsoever, Derek, it's not just about defending the box well, but the ball isn't really getting into those positions. That comes into, I think, the fact that at times, because Rangers are quite direct in the build-up play. They're not losing the ball in really threatening positions, but I think that's a huge positive. I don't know how many clean sheets that is in the league alone under Clement, but it must be into double figures now. By far and away the best defence in the league, and that's what gets you through games like yesterday, because although Rangers have those two penalties late on, I think you'd still back the defence and Jack Butland to keep the game at 1-0 if they can. Big test coming up against Kilmarnock away next week. I think that's a real, and Hearts obviously at home. These are two big games in the context of the title race, and to see if Rangers can not only obviously go top of the table but stay there. But I agree, especially since Clement came in, the defensive record has been really strong. That's going to be key between now and May.
Yeah, absolutely. And next up, of course, Chris, is Hearts at the weekend. We've got a Europa League draw to look forward to on Friday, which cannot wait for that as well. So really it's going to be a cracking week looking ahead to that. What is a big game at Ibrox? Maka says this Saturday is a big game. Hearts are the other firm team at the moment. They certainly are. But Rangers with the opportunity to go 5 points clear before Celtic go to Motherwell on the Sunday. That could be a huge psychological edge that the Rangers could inflict upon Celtic before they go there. It's not going to be an easy game for them, and they are stuttering along at this moment in time.
They are, but as Micah says there, I think if you look at the next two, Hearts form side, Kelly, we know what they can do against Old Firm. They've been really, really impressive this season under Derek McInnes, and full credit to them. And also a bit of credit to Hearts, because it was a sticky start to the season for them. Stephen A. Smith and the squad there really turned it around. Their form in the last few weeks has been really, really impressive. You do get a feeling if Rangers can, it's almost like ticking off small achievements and small parts of the journey or the story, to use the manager's phrase.
Yeah.
If we can get through these next two, if we're sitting next Thursday morning and they've overcome Hearts, they've overcome Kelly, regardless of what happens elsewhere, regardless of what Celtic do, you get the feeling Rangers are in a really, really strong position, because they are two very, very difficult games, two very winnable games, obviously, and Rangers will fancy their chances to go and beat anyone, given the form and given the situation and the confidence that they're in. But these next two do feel like potentially defining one. So fingers crossed we can come through both of them. But again, as the manager always says, it is just this one game at a time. You'd like to think Ibrox will be particularly loud at the weekend, given as you outlined there, they're given a chance to pull even further ahead of Celtic. If Rangers could put down we talk about statement wins, every win is a big win, every 3 points is an important one. But if they could put in a really strong performance, a strong result against Hearts at the weekend, it would really be a real case statement of intent from Rangers. And then all we can do is keep doing our work, keep holding up our end of the bargain, and whatever happens elsewhere happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Plenty of games to look forward to. No midweek fixture this week, incidentally, folks, but you can look forward to those Europa League games on Thursday night and who Rangers could potentially face in the last 16. Certainly a lot to look forward to as far as Rangers are concerned. Just a quick word as well. I just noticed this comment from James Strachan, a good viewer to the show. He says, I have some good news. My little 3-year-old granddaughter has her cancer reducing. And although it's been really tough, she seems to be moving in the right direction after her 4 chemotherapy sessions. That's absolutely great news, James. Delighted to hear that, buddy. And thank you, as ever, for tuning in to the Rangers review on this Monday morning, a bright Monday morning at that too. Incidentally, folks, if you want to watch me and Joshua's analysis of Todd Cantwell, it was a video we did last week. We will be doing more of them in the weeks going forward. Great feedback on it. The link is in the description, so do go and check it out. Just looking at how his role is changed and how he's performing under Philip Clement. I thought he was good yesterday. And Chris says hopefully that ice pack on his hamstring is just precautionary, and he'll be back for Saturday because he's playing really well at this moment in time. Right, we'll wrap up there. Thanks to everyone for interacting with the show as ever. I'll be on for the YouTube members. We'll do a little Q&A this afternoon as ever. So if you want to get your questions in, I'll pop the link in the community chat and fire as many in as you possibly can, and we'll answer them a little later on this afternoon. Around about 12:30, we'll come back on. Thanks to Chris and Joshua, and we'll speak to you a little later on. Bye for now.